Good evening. You're watching the news at 7:30 on ATV. I'm Emily Sue.
And I'm Raymond Yeung. Here's a look at tonight's top stories.
Privacy Commissioner urges law change to block marketing cold calls, but minister in charge says just say no to callers.
Swimming pools and beaches affected as hundreds of lifeguards go on strike to complain about overwork and overcrowding.
Frantic hunt for survivors and struggle to deliver aid as step toll from Yunnan quake hits 410. We start tonight with something that affects all of us, receiving cold calls from marketing firms. The Privacy Commissioner has urged the government to amend the law so that people can block out unwanted calls by companies trying to sell goods and services over the phone.
The watchdog is citing a new survey showing most people consider cold calls a nuisance and a waste of time. But the minister in charge doesn't think it's necessary.
His solution? Just say no and they won't call you again. But as ATV's An Cheng reports, it's not so simple.
Most of us in Hong Kong have been interrupted in the middle of something important by a phone call, only to find a salesperson on the other end of the line. Marketing companies were banned years ago from sending text or voice messages to people who join a do not call register, but they can carry on with direct person-to-person calls to sell their products. The Privacy Commissioner had this problem in mind today when he released the results of a survey of more than 500 people conducted in March. An overwhelming 99% of respondents regarded such cold calls, P2P in official speak, as a nuisance, while 81% complained they were an inconvenience and a waste of time.
I think it should be clear that the effectiveness of doing these P2P, what we call person-to-person, P2P telephone calls, are not effective.
Armed with the results of the survey, Chang has asked the government to amend the relevant legislation to include P2P in the Do Not Call register. People can already put their numbers on the register to ward off unwanted electronic communication, such as fax, text, and pre-recorded messages. The Privacy Commissioner tried 3 years ago to get the government to expand the scope of the law so that people can keep out unsolicited calls, but the bid was rejected. So he's making another attempt.
The proposal of including P2P calls in not-call registers are a world norm. So if we are to include P2P calls in such a facility, we are really following the world standard. Which I think should be the standard because it respects the rights of the consumers to decide for themselves whether or not to take those P2P calls.
Since April last year, 18 people have complained to the police about cold calls, but there has yet to be a successful conviction. The privacy watchdog is urging marketing firms and call centers to do their own research to understand the situation.
So the first thing, that I would call them, to do much better is to deploy much more resources to audit themselves. They can hire independent auditors, to be mystery, shoppers or maybe callers or getting in touch, with those sensors.
But the minister in charge, Greg So, doesn't see the need to change the law. His solution? Just say no and they won't call you again. That's despite the fact that people are complaining about cold calls almost every day, regardless of what they say to the person on the other end of the line. The marketing firms also hide behind numbers that don't accept return calls when annoyed recipients try to lodge a complaint or ask for their numbers to be deleted. The Commerce Secretary has been ridiculed in the past for offering similar advice when asked about the problem of severe overcrowding on MTR trains. His solution? Wait for the next one. An Cheng, ATV News.
The organizers of the Occupy Central movement have flatly denied receiving millions of dollars from media tycoon Jimmy Lai, suggesting he may have spent the money of his own accord to promote the civil disobedience campaign.
More details of such donations have been leaked to the media, including some suggesting former Chief Secretary Anson Chan was paid by Lai to regain advertising income lost due to his pro-democracy activities. Local newspapers today were once again awash with headlines on Hong Kong's most high-profile democracy advocates receiving donations from media mogul Jimmy Lai. The records were leaked late yesterday by the same person claiming to be a shareholder of Lai's Next Media Group, who sent documents detailing the tycoon's political donations to pro-democracy lawmakers and organizations 2 weeks ago. This time, the spotlight is on the three brains behind the Occupy Central movement: law professor Benny Tai, sociology scholar Chan Kin-man, and Reverend Chu Yeung. One of the email exchanges between Lai and his top aide Mark Simon showed that the Next Media boss spent $3 to $3.5 million on Occupy's unofficial referendum on political reform at the end of June. In another exchange with Next Media senior management in July 2013, Lai dismisses the three as idealist scholars who couldn't make the cut without help. The email was sent 6 months after the three Occupy leaders unveiled their plans to stage a full-scale street blockade in Central to push for genuine democracy. Lai wrote that the trio had no strategy, not to mention any organized plans or steps for actions, and they could accomplish nothing if there was no help. The media tycoon also rejected advice from his company's director not to help Occupy. Chan Kin-man today denied receiving any money from Lai, clarifying that the Occupy movement has collected $7 million in donations since last year, and none of it came from him.
In the email leak by some anonymous persons, it didn't mention that it was a donation. It was just some money that Mr. Lai spent for advertisement, billboard, whatever, related to the civil referendum that we organized in June.
Chan condemned the leak as a smear campaign.
If you look at how much money he had, 3.5 million would not be a very big sum of money. So I guess they just want to confuse the public that it is something unacceptable. To me, it is totally acceptable for a business person to express a political view through donations.
Another targeted figure in the leaked emails is the government's former number 2, Anson Chan, who has been insisting from day one that she only accepts donations with no strings attached, and there's nothing wrong with that. Exchanges between Lai and his top aide Simon suggest Chan pocketed $500,000 from the media tycoon last June and July for office renovation and an additional $3 million this January for a special project. Chan apparently wrote to HSBC and the Bank of East Asia the following month, demanding the two lenders explain why they pulled ads from Next Media's Apple Daily. In an email dated the 7th of February, Simon told Lai that he had breakfast with Chan and learned that she was unhappy with the Bank of East Asia's reply that the decision was a review of advertising, and displeased that HSBC ignored her inquiry. The Civic Party's Claudia Mo and James Toh from the Democratic Party have been named again as recipients of $500,000 each in the newly leaked documents. While Lai himself has confirmed he gave them the money for electioneering, they continue to deny it today.